Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Wrestling Doesn't Make Sense. It's a show where me and John go back through wrestling history and talk about whether or not it makes sense. Now, fortunately for us, we don't have to go back too far for today's episode. We're talking about Wrestlemania, baby. Specifically, whatever Wrestlemania was this year. 37. We talked about this last week.
Yeah, 37.
37. See, we had a system, and that's how I remembered it. So go back to listen to last week's episode if you want to know what the WrestleMania system is. But anyway, WrestleMania 37 happened. So we had a whole week. We had a whole week of WrestleMania shenanigans. Thank you very much, our glorious sports entertainment overlords, for blessing us with such wonderful content. We had NXT. We're doing a takeover for 2 nights. This is the first time that's ever happened. 2 nights. Which was Wednesday and Thursday.
Yep.
On Tuesday, they had the Hall of Fame.
Yep.
WWE Hall of Fame. We saw to the 2020 and the 2021 inductees into the Hall of Fame. All of them were great. You know, I would have liked it if Molly Holly and Kane were out there in front of an audience. Even JBL, like, that would have been. But at the same time, some of those guys, like Kane is one of those guys. He's probably backstage at a WWE event anyway. Do you know what I mean? So him putting him in now is like, well, don't worry about it. You know, you were gonna go in eventually.
Yeah.
So that was nice. Hall of Fame was good. There was a NXT UK live special thing. I don't think it was live.
No, it wasn't live, but it had some big matches on it.
Yes, it did. That was on. I don't remember what day that was on.
Thursday.
Nothing on Friday. What happened on Friday?
SmackDown.
Oh, nobody gives a shit about SmackDown.
Yeah.
And then Saturday and Sunday with the big boys. That was our WrestleMania 2-day weekend. We had 2 nights of WrestleMania. Everybody was very excited. The whole weekend, or the whole week, full of wrestling fun. So let's start talking about NXT. How about that? We'll start talking about the takeover event.
Yeah, it sounds like a good place to start.
Yes, indeed. So I think the first night was headlined by the women's title match. Shirai and Raquel Gonzalez. What else was on that first night? Was that the tag titles or was it the second night?
The tag titles was that night as well, with the grizzled young veterans against Legado del Fantasma and MSK. Which I thought was a pretty good match. Like, I thought it was a good showcase for Legado del Fantasma, to be honest, because those are 2 guys who haven't been used a whole lot outside of Santos Escobar's muscle, really. So they got to do a lot of cool stuff and look good doing it. So it's a good coming out party for them.
I wasn't a super big fan of that match because I thought, like, by the last half of it, but the first half was a typical, like, triple threat kind of throw one guy out of the ring and then 2 guys wrestle. And that was the whole first half of the match. And then the second half of the match just went so quickly. I'm like, I don't even know what the fuck is happening. I don't know who's hitting who and where are they. And they're outside the ring and they're inside the ring. It was too much for me. So I have no idea what. I can't remember anything that happened in that match. You know, and I'm like, that's a dang shame because, you know, all those guys are good, but they were just a little too quick for me. The old, you know, son of a gun me. You know, I can't take these youngsters moving so quick. The first night, I remember not really caring much for the tag matches, but thinking the singles matches were pretty good. That's what I remember from the first night.
Well, that was the only tag match on the first night.
There was some other. Wait, was there not a women's tag title match, or was that the second night?
That was night 2, yeah.
Oh, there was some other match that I wasn't a big fan of. Oh, it was the gauntlet match thing.
Yeah.
That was a bit of a mess. I didn't really care much for that one.
No,
either.
It wasn't bad, but it just wasn't. I mean, it took up a lot of show for something which, felt like it kind of didn't need that much time.
No, I don't think so. They could have figured that one out in a much more coherent manner. So I wasn't a big fan of that one. But the singles matches I really liked.
Yeah.
On night
Pete
one.
Dunne and Kushida. That was
Yes.
a good quality,
That
like
was lots of
10-minute
fun.
match. They just
Yes.
burned through it really quick, but it was just great, like mat wrestling and stuff and counter wrestling, which you know you love to see.
Love to see it. I'm a little afraid for Kushida because he's losing a lot of takeovers.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
like, come on, man. You couldn't. I love Pete Dunne. Obviously, he's going places, but you couldn't, give something to Kushida. He needs a little bit more momentum. He keeps turning up, keeps like knocking out of the park, but a lot of high profile losses like this doesn't look good.
Yeah.
But still, really good match. The Walter match, was that on that show or was that the second show?
No, that was this first night as well.
Okay. What did you think of that match?
I would say it is probably one of my top 3 matches of the weekend.
I think it's easily got a shout for match of the week, right?
Mm.
Son of a gun, really good. And we all sometimes you see a dream match like that and you think it could be good, but will it be good?
Mm.
Which we'll probably end up talking about later on in the show. And this match could have been good, and it was really good. It was exactly what you wanted from those two guys, and they delivered. God dang, did they ever deliver.
They beat the ever-loving shit out of each other.
And it was so much fun to watch.
Yeah.
We've been sitting here talking about all these other garbage fucking shenanigans and being burnt alive and feuding with rappers and getting kidnapped and all of this other nonsense. And then we just see a match where two guys are beating the shit out of each other. And you're like, isn't that nice?
Yeah.
Isn't that lovely to see? That was a really good match.
Yeah. I love the fact that, because I saw a lot of people sort of complaining on Twitter afterwards about how it ended with a chop. But I mean,
Yeah.
come on, man, it's Walter's chops, and he did break the announce table with a missed one, so you kind of get a sense of how deadly those chops can be.
What I really liked about that, the chop through the announce table, was that it looked a little bit like they gimmicked it, where there was like a big clean split in the middle of it.
Mm.
Right? With, really clean split. But also there was a clear handprint from Walter. Like he legitimately chopped it.
Yeah,
he
yeah.
really did put his fucking hand through it. Yeah, I heard some people complaining about like, how could he win with a chop? And I'm like, well, first of all, they just went 20 minutes chopping each other, right? Like if you get chopped once from Walter, tell me if you want to keep wrestling for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
But like that was the point of it. It was the culmination of the match. That's what I loved about that. He didn't hit his magical finisher. He just like hit a suplex, which caught him off guard and slapped him, and he couldn't take anymore.
Yeah.
Like in a real fight.
Exactly.
It's such a good. I am really really loving this Walter because he stands out so much these days. Because his matches just look like old school wrestling matches. You're like, this is nice. And you notice that when he gets other people in the ring with him who can do sports entertainment, he raises them to his level, right?
Yeah.
He doesn't start clowning around and slipping up banana peels outside the ring. They have to like meet him. He's that serious of a guy. You have to climb up to his level. That's a lesson I feel a couple of people could be learning these days.
It's worth pointing out as well. He had another amazing match on the NXT UK show on Thursday against Rampage Brown as well, which was another really hard hitting match, but more of a like a hoss match, really. Two big dudes just again beating the shit out of each other.
Exactly. That was really fun to watch right after the first Walter match, because if you watch the first one against Tommaso Ciampa, you see how long it takes Ciampa to actually put Walter down.
Mm-hmm.
He'll be hitting him forever, but Walter doesn't leave his feet for a long time. And if you watch the Rampage Brown match, will you see how quickly it is before Rampage Brown is able to knock Walter on his ass?
Yeah.
And then that shocked Walter. He's like, oh, now I'm in for a fight here. That's the 2 quality matches in a row. I mean, obviously that was taped fucking God knows when.
Yeah.
But to see those 2 quality matches from the one guy in the 1 week, very impressive. Very, very impressive.
Big
So,
things ahead for Walter, I think. If he wants to come over to America and, wrestle either with NXT or like even go straight up to the main roster, like he could be one of the biggest stars.
can you imagine him on the main roster?
Jesus.
Him with his like fucking, World War II helmet on, eating a sauerkraut and sausages. Like,
Ugh.
yeah, well, Austria, here you go, leader host. Like, they're gonna, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
As
yeah,
soon as
yeah.
he fucking steps foot in that, well, it's all about entertainment. You're like, he can be entertaining by beating the piss out of a guy. Maybe the rest of the wrestlers on your show could focus on that entertainment aspect, but let's keep him away from the main roster for now. But I mean, he's unstoppable. He's been NXT UK champion for 700 and something days.
Yep.
My goodness. So he's kind of the MVP right now. Walter did a lot of good work this week. A lot of heavy lifting was done by Walter. I think I would say that.
What did you think of the NXT Women's title match?
I liked it. I was kind of surprised that Raquel Gonzalez was the one to stop Io Shirai, because I thought they were going to do more, and maybe they will, but I thought they were going to do more with Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez as a tag team. Now that the NXT has their own women's tag team championships, I would have liked to see them focus more on their, like, I don't want to see them go down the route of the main roster women's tag titles where they have no fucking tag teams. Raquel Gonzalez and Dakota Kai are a really good team, and I thought that they might be like this. Like, this was kind of like a bump in the road, but then after this they'll go back to the title. Maybe they still will do that.
Yeah,
Maybe they'll make her a double champion. I don't know. I'm very interested. Hopefully, well, I don't know. I was gonna say hopefully Io Shirai might move to the main roster, but again, we've just covered this. Maybe the main roster isn't for everybody. She seems to be doing a lot of good work in NXT. We could keep her there. I wouldn't be too bummed about that. I don't know, but I liked that match. I thought it was fun.
Yeah, I don't think it was amazing, but it was like a good showcase for the two of them. I think, like with Io sort of throwing everything that she could at Raquel Gonzalez just to try and keep her down, and but Gonzalez has been built up as this like monster in the women's division over the last year, which is insane to think as well. Like, her rise over the last year has been just one of the best stories that NXT have done. I think, like, coming in as like the like just the bodyguard of Dakota Kai, and like when she debuted, helping Dakota Kai, people were chanting like, "Who are you?" and stuff like that. And now she's, just over a year later, she's the NXT Women's Champion. So it's been a good story to see her kind of rise up, and she's definitely, earned that spot as well, I think, with a lot of her performances and stuff. So that was the aspect I kind of enjoyed more than the match itself, was like the feel good moment of like seeing someone who's worked so hard, get the rewards for that hard work.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Like, it wasn't the best match you'll ever see. I believe that's gonna be that Walter Tommaso Ciampa match. But it was fun. I don't know if it was a main event kind of fun, but it was just fun to watch. And you're like, all right, yeah, like you said, it was a nice moment for the women's division. And you're like, this is cool. I dig it. We're off to a good start here.
Yeah.
So what happened on night 2?
On night 2, we kicked off with the Cruiserweight title unification ladder match.
Yes.
Santos Escobar against Jordan Devlin.
I have one thing to say about that.
Yeah.
Really like Santos Escobar's music. I really liked it. I don't know if that's his new theme or whatever, because I couldn't find it on YouTube. Really like that song. That's cool. Like, yeah, dude. And that's the thing. Once you hear somebody's like good ring music, you start to empathize with them more.
Yeah.
And I got to see this guy. I haven't really seen a whole lot of Santos Escobar, but it was a fun match. I'm not a big fan of Jordan Devlin, though.
No, same here, to be honest. But I will give him some credit because, like the moonsault he did off the ladder, which was
Yeah.
a very rickety looking ladder as well. Like it did not look at all stable, but he absolutely nailed that moonsault.
Mm-hmm.
And the Spanish fly they did off the ladders as well was pretty cool as well. So there's a couple of good spots in that match. It wasn't the greatest ladder match of all time, or even anywhere close to the greatest, but I mean, it did the job, and I think the right guy won in the end as well. So
yeah, I think so. I think that it was again, it was a fun match. It didn't blow anybody away, but it wasn't like. I mean, we have both seen much worse. You know, I thought it was fine. You know, fine way to open the show. It was okay. So, all right, cool. What else have we got?
So then we had the women's tag team title match with Shotzi Blackheart and Ember Moon defending against Candice LeRae and Indy Hartwell.
Yeah, I don't really remember a whole lot about this one either.
No, it was a perfectly fine match, but like it was not takeover worthy, you know? It was just it was the kind of thing you'd expect to see on like an episode of NXT, but there wasn't a whole lot too special about it aside from, you know, Shotzi kind of overshotting a suicide dive and nearly spiking herself on her head.
Oh dear.
But
Shotzi.
yeah.
When will you learn? She'll never learn.
Yeah.
Never learn. All right. Well, I don't remember nothing about this one. So, what was the next match?
It was the North American title match. Johnny Gargano against Bronson Reed. Yes.
I thought this was fun.
Yeah, I didn't enjoy it as much as most people. I thought it was a bit sloppy in places, which kind of dragged it down a little bit for me. But I liked the story they told though, with Gargano like sort of going after the ribs and you know, trying to wear the bigger guy down and stuff, because it kind of, you know, showed he's a smart wrestler who knows what he's doing, and yeah, it told a good story in the match. But yeah, I don't know, it didn't impress me that much overall, I don't think.
Right, like you kind of get the story they're going for, but it wasn't like, again, it wasn't like, wow, this is amazing. This isn't, you know, it didn't seem like takeover kind of quality, because they've been knocking it out of the park for so long that, you know, some of these matches seemed a little bit like not necessarily thrown together, but obviously that's exactly what I mean, thrown together, because they had to do 2 nights instead of 1. And I don't know, man. Yeah, so that one was okay. I mean, it was fun, but it wasn't like, you know, amazing.
Yeah.
But what was after that? I'm trying to remember.
Then it was the NXT World Title match, Finn Balor against Karrion Kross.
Okay, what did you think of that one?
Well, I thought that was the best I've seen Karrion Kross in NXT so far. Like, I've not been too blown away with a lot of his in-ring stuff, but you know, Finn Balor was doing a really good job, especially in the early goings of like telling it the story of him, you know, trying to make Kross angry and get him to kind of expend all of his energy in the early goings. And you had commentary who kept going on and on about him wanting, you know, Karrion Kross to essentially wear himself out, because Finn Balor can go for however long he needs to. So that was like a good story running through the match, and then it, you know, once Kross does get going, then it kind of changes the complexion altogether, and then, you know, Finn Balor suddenly finds himself in more of a fight, and that's what we got. And yeah, in the end, it ended up being like a really dominant win for Kross. Like the way he won the title, beat Balor as well, who's only lost one takeover match before this. So yeah, it's good stuff.
I mean, I agree with you on the Karrion Kross thing. I don't really. Well, I think we talked about this last year whenever he was the champion. We just don't see it.
Mm.
And Finn Balor's been on a real tear recently. He's been putting on killer matches against everybody he's been in the ring with. And I thought this match was okay. It was fun to watch, but I didn't think it was like as good as some of the other Finn Balor matches I've seen. And
Oh no, definitely not.
I'm still not super into this Karrion Kross guy. I'm like, I didn't see anything in this match that made him any better than a lot of the other talent they have on that roster.
Mm.
I don't quite see it myself. So, but again, I thought this is a fun match. Not that outrageous happened.
Yeah.
It was a fun, solid match. I'm like, okay, this is fine. Karrion Kross. I mean, he seems capable of being in that spot. He seems like he can do that. So, let him be the champion. He can do it. So, fair enough.
I'd say as well, he's got the look and everything down. Like
Yeah.
he looks, like he's carved out of stone pretty much, and he's got like all the intensity, and then you got Scar as well on the outside, adding to the whole package. But yeah,
Right.
it's just the in ring side of things where he's not really blown us away yet, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we'll see where that goes.
Mm.
Maybe he'll change our minds, but we'll see. And then after that was that the Adam Cole Kyle O'Reilly match?
Yeah, the unsanctioned match.
All right, what did you think of this?
Oof. I mean, it kind of went too long, really. It was what, like 40, 45 minutes or something like that, I think in total. And I mean, okay, I get the need to kind of make it intense and have these callbacks to stuff that's happened, like during the feud previously and stuff like that. But at the same time, some of it just felt like they were trying too hard to make it epic, and like with the time it went on for as well, it just kind of ended up dragging a little bit for me.
Well, here's the thing. We know that Adam Cole in his matches has a habit of putting in an awful lot of false finishes,
Mm,
and which is sometimes the later into the match you go, the more false finishes there are, really takes me out of it. Because
mm,
if you just see people like doing a big move and then kicking out and then doing a big move and then kicking out like over and over again for like the last 5 minutes of a match, it it kind of ruins it for me, and I don't like that. And Adam Cole is usually pretty close to like the limit on that. You know what I mean? For
mm-hmm.
me, I'm like you're getting pretty close to going too far. I thought this match was a bit too far because the end of it, like you said, it went on way too long. Like they could have cut an easy 10 minutes off that. There was a lot of silly spots and a lot of overboardness and a lot of weapons and stuff. And so once you add in all the weapons and add in all the lengths that DC guys were gonna go, and then you also put in loads of kickouts and false finishes, it starts to lose like any believability. And
Yeah.
so, and then once you get to like the half-hour mark and you can feel that it's starting to drag a little bit, then you start to notice that stuff more, which is when you want to attract people's attention. You don't want them to fall out of attention, but right by at the end of the match at the key points. That's no good. But I
Mm.
feel like that happened just because it went too long and it was a bit too silly at the end. You know, so I thought that match was good, but because it went too long and because it got too silly at the end, it wasn't great. You know.
Yeah. I definitely agree with that. Like some of this stuff, like when Cole did the brainbuster on the steps, which is obviously what kind of put Kyle O'Reilly out for a few weeks before, and like he had to get stretchered out of the building and stuff. But here he gets it done to him after like 20-25 minutes of getting his ass kicked anyway, and then he manages to kick out. That's
Right.
like you know it's pushing the believability a bit too much.
Right. By that point, it's ridiculous. You're like, this
Yeah.
is it's a little too silly for me. And I thought that was a shame because both those guys are really good. And also the takeover had been pretty okay so far. Like I felt like that wasn't a great way to end it.
Mm.
But hey, it is what it is. Right?
Yeah.
It is what it is. So TakeOver all together, it made a lot of sense for the most part. I
Mm-hmm.
think there was a couple of matches that was like a little but on, wasn't super fussed on it. But there was some really good matches on there too. Matches that you guys should definitely check out if you haven't seen them already. We've talked about Pete Dunne versus Kushida is really good. Obviously, Walter versus Tommaso Ciampa is really good.
Mm-hmm.
I would go check those out. The Finn Balor match is okay if that's your thing, and the women's title match I would check out as well
Yeah.
for sure. So that's Takeover. Shall we move on to the big boy?
Let's move on to the big boy.
The main event, WrestleMania Night 1. Night
Mm-hmm.
1 of many. So it started off with 40 minutes of nothing because it was raining and they were in an outdoor stadium and hadn't planned for the weather in Florida where they've been for the last year.
Ay, ay, ay.
Unbelievable. So they stalled for time for about 40 minutes to dry the ring and to stop the rain, I guess. And then the show started. Hooray! So already, you and me, who live in the UK, and had to wait till 1 o'clock in the morning to watch this show anyway. Now I had to wait till 20 to 2 in the morning before we even started to see anybody walking down to the ring.
Mm-hmm.
And the first match on the show, the Universal Championship, Bobby Lashley versus Drew McIntyre.
Yes.
What did you think of this one?
I really enjoyed it. I thought it was exactly the kind of hard-hitting match you kind of thought it was going to be. Like it started off a bit slow, but then, as a lot of Drew McIntyre matches seem to do, they build and build and get better as they go along, which is what you want. But I was really surprised by the ending. Like I was totally expecting, first match back in front of fans for the first time in over a year. Surely they'd give like the big babyface win to Drew McIntyre to kind of make up for winning the title last year in front of no fans, and then he basically gets knocked out cold by Lashley's Hurt Lock. So there you go.
I thought, well, I'm not too bummed with that result because I thought what would be a good idea is to kind of have Lashley versus McIntyre now, but you don't want to derail Lashley's momentum. You want to keep the belt on him for a bit. So have some kind of screwy finish at WrestleMania, have a rematch at SummerSlam, right?
Yes.
And I think having a rematch at SummerSlam is a good idea because that gives plenty of time between now and August, right? Because we've already seen the build for Lashley versus McIntyre so far. I don't know if you can stretch it out or if I would give other people to Lashley first and build him up as a big challenger so that whenever Drew does fight him again, and I would put it at SummerSlam because that's a big event. But when Drew finally does come around, then you've seen the build up and it'll mean even more. And by SummerSlam they should have fans too. So it all makes sense.
And then on Raw.
And then apparently they're not doing that shit. They're just gonna do it at Backlash. And how? Because Drew McIntyre won a match.
Yep.
Good. I'm sure this is not going to be the only time we're going to talk about how shitty their booking is tonight. I'll be honest with you, dude. I don't know if this was just me. Apparently it is, but I didn't like that match.
Okay.
I've talked about this before on some matches where you watch them, you think this should be great, but I feel like something doesn't click. It didn't seem like super smooth. It didn't seem like it wasn't as good as I thought it could have been. I was really looking forward to that match, and I with those two guys, they're both really talented. Drew McIntyre, like we said, pretty much all of last year, knocked out of the park with everything. But for me, this was the first time in a long time where I can't say that the Drew McIntyre match was one to watch on pay-per-view. And that sucks because he has been doing such a good job. And we've been saying every other pay-per-view, well, this sucks, but the Drew match was great, And I couldn't really say that about this WrestleMania, unfortunately. So I was in a good mood already.
Yeah.
And then I think the second match was the women's tag team
turmoil.
Yeah, the number one contendership match.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let me ask you what you thought of this match.
Well, if we were giving out a prize for the worst match of the weekend, I'd say this is pretty high up there. I mean, God bless them. It just didn't really click at all, did it? There's lots of, botched spots and no real flow to anything. And like, I mean, the only positive I can really say about it was I got a good laugh out of Billy Kay kind of mimicking Carmella a lot during her entrance and when they were in the ring as well. But like that was pretty much the only enjoyment I got out of this.
Did you see Lana like totally fucking miss that kick?
Oh yeah, I know.
I mean, you could drive a bus through there. she whiffed that by a mile. And I get it's slippy. It was reading, fair enough. But oh boy, that was not a good match.
And it had just the weirdest winners as well, like Natalya and Tamina. Of all the teams you could have gone for, and that to go on to night 2 and challenge for the tag titles, Natalya and Tamina, what the fuck?
Here's the thing, right? Going into that match, one thing they had been talking about with that match was Carmella and Billy Kay working together and being a team, and then they kind of got put into the match at the last minute, and you thought, all right, I see where this is going. Unlikely bedfellows, but it turns out they work as a team, and then second night they'll fight for the tag titles, yada yada. But they didn't do that at all. I'm like, well, why was that part of the focus of the match going into it? Whenever fucking Natalya and Tamina win.
Yeah.
What? No, I didn't like that match at all. That was something else.
I mean, the second match back in front of fans after the first match is just finished with the heel winning and stuff, and then you kind of like suck the life out of the crowd even more. It's a pretty bold choice, I guess.
Wouldn't be the last time the wind was sucked out of that crowd.
Yeah.
Okay, what was the third match?
So this is where business started picking up a little bit because we had Seth Rollins versus Cesaro.
Yes, finally we got something good.
Yeah, and this was all built around like the Cesaro swing and, Seth Rollins trying to avoid it as much as possible, which was like a big portion of the early part of the match before they, sort of transitioned into, just wrestling normally for a while. But I'd say this was pretty much the only match of the whole weekend, or one of the only matches where you saw some kicking out of finishes as well, which kind of stood out to me because usually on WrestleMania, that's just pretty much every other match you see someone kicking out of their opponent's finisher. But yeah, this was the only one, I think.
I like this match. I like how you said that Seth Rollins was trying to avoid getting a swing in. And then, which they were playing up a lot. And then he kind of got into the swing pretty quickly. They swung him pretty quick. And then after that, Cesaro was like, fuck the swing. I'm going to do the UFO.
Yeah.
Fucking put some on his shoulders and swings him around. That's what Seth Rollins should have been worried about. That was fun. Cesaro has a really good way of connecting with an audience through wrestling. He does it through wrestling. He does it through what the moves he does and how he does them and when he does them. Right? He's a smart dude. Seth Rollins, he knows how to work a crowd. He knows how to work a good match. I was really excited for this match. I didn't think it was like a 5-star classic, but it was lots of fun.
Yeah,
very
definitely.
entertaining. Very entertaining. Easily the best match so far, in my opinion. So I was digging that. I'm like, all right, finally, we're getting something good. Here we go. Let's have some more of the good stuff. So what was the match after that?
That was the Raw Tag Team title match with the New Day against AJ Styles and Omos, because they all pronounce it differently.
Yeah. All right, well, let me ask you what you think of this match first, because I know what I think of it.
Well, I thought like it was almost weirdly done. Like, I think we watched New Day versus Street Profits match where New Day kind of ended up playing the heels in the match. And it felt like this was sort of similar, where, they kind of cut AJ Styles off and were, controlling him for most of the match and denying him the chance to go and make the hot tag to Omos. And so that sort of had AJ Styles feeling like the face and New Day feeling like the heels, even though they were still, like playing to the crowd and stuff and doing their usual shtick. But, once he got the hot tag to Omos and he came in, then that kind of changed on its head again. And then he was very much like the, dominant heel monster who just can't be knocked off his feet and just, uses his power to take everyone out. So it was just this weird sort of mesh of styles and ideas. And I think as a way to kind of introduce Omos as like, his in-ring debut and everything, I thought it was pretty successful. Wasn't the like greatest match or anything like that, but like for what they were aiming for, I think it did the job.
I totally agree with you. I was watching the match going, why are the New Day the heels? Because they were the heels in that match. Surely going into that match, AJ Styles and his massive bodyguard were the heels. And I thought that was like that stood out to me a lot. I'm like, this is weird. Like, why are they wrestling like heels? And I guess it's to tease Omos being tagged in, I suppose. But then isn't that like backwards booking? Like if that's what was gonna happen in the match, you wouldn't book that match, right? Like, very strange. So I didn't really get into that one because I thought that was kind of weird. And then, like you said, like, Omos came in and like destroyed everybody, but again in like a babyface kind of way. I felt it was all like him overpowering the heels and him getting a feel good win at the end. That's what it felt like, and I'm like, okay, this is strange. Took me out of it again. Took me out of it. So I'm like, all right, one good match so far, fellas. But I'm sure things will change by whatever the next match is.
Well, the next match was the steel cage match between Braun Strowman and Shane McMahon.
All right, so we don't even need to talk about how stupid this match was to begin with. Like, nobody needed to see this, and yet it happened anyway.
Yeah.
How stupid is Shane McMahon? Like, why did this happen? I understand why Shane McMahon would just pick a fight with this guy, and then he's the heel, but he looks like an idiot.
Exactly, and when the whole story is based around Braun supposedly being stupid as well, it's like, dude, you should look in the mirror.
Like, Shane McMahon looks like the stupidest fucking person alive. Willingly getting locked inside a cell with that guy. Like, I don't understand this idea of booking Shane McMahon in a cage every year. Because that's all it is. It's just put him in a cage and he'll jump off something, right? And that's all that happens, right? So they just have to come up with reasons for it, and it doesn't work. It never works. Sometimes it's fun. This one wasn't fun. I want to tell you a couple of things that stuck out to me in this match. There's a bit where Shane McMahon climbs up the cage and pulls off like a piece of sheet metal from the top.
Yeah.
But he just pulls it off. He just like pops it off. So Shane McMahon grabs this big sheet of metal off the top of the cage, which I'd never really noticed before. Interesting that would be there. But he effortlessly rips that off the side of the cage and uses that as a devastating weapon against Braun Strowman. So that stuck out to me. I'm like, okay, the cage wasn't enough. You had to pull the cage apart. Well, of course they did pull the cage apart.
That spot actually looked pretty cool, I thought.
Well, before that, I would like to draw your attention to one little thing. Where Shane McMahon climbed the top of the cage again, presumably looking for more sheet metal. And here's a quote from Michael Cole. Shane McMahon has found a toolbox. I'm like, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
He climbed on top of a steel cage and he found a toolbox. There just
Yeah.
happened to be a tool. I would fire whoever put it together that cell. What are you leaving a toolbox up on top of the fucking cage for? That's dangerous.
It was in some sort of weird sack thing as well, like hanging off the kind of wires of the
Why would they
cage. It's
put
like,
it there?
yeah, what the hell?
Why? Also, again, why do you need a toolbox?
Exactly.
What do you need a toolbox for? A steel cage? You can't figure out how to use the cage. And then they did the bit where they ripped the side off the cage, which yeah, it was pretty cool, right? But
Yeah.
by that point, I'm like, fuck this,
Yeah.
right? What do you think?
Yeah, I wasn't a huge fan of this one. Well, I mean, like I say, I thought that spot where Braun ripped open the cage looked pretty good at least. And like the bump that Shane took off the top of the cage looked really, really bad as
Sore.
well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But like
but
you're a 50-year-old man.
exactly.
There's no reason you have to do this at all. If you look at the rest of this card, they could have had a great wrestling match, and you could have just stayed at home.
Mm-hmm.
There's absolutely there's no storyline benefit for it because it doesn't make any sense. There's no why is Shane McMahon like an authority figure? No, because he just seems like he's just hanging out backstage.
Yeah.
He doesn't do anything, and then he just randomly picked a fight with somebody. I don't like. It's so stupid to begin with. Fuck that match, right? So by this point, I was really salty, and I was texting my brother. I'm like, "How many matches are left? Is it just the Sasha Banks match?" And he was like, sure, yeah." And I was like, "Okay, cool. You know, I can sit through this piece of shit cage match just to get to Sasha Banks. Let's see what happens." And about halfway through the cage match, I was like, "Oh, there's one other match I forgot about, isn't there?" So I went to bed.
Oh dear.
I was like, I'm not watching this shit. I watched the last two matches the next day. I watched the Sasha Banks match, and I did watch this next match that we're about to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
And predictably, I wish I hadn't.
Okay.
This is The Miz and John Morrison versus Bad Bunny and Damian Priest.
Mm-hmm.
What did you think of this match?
Well, I think I enjoyed it a hell of a lot more than you by the sounds of it.
Oh, yes.
I mean, I thought Bad Bunny looked really good in there. Like he belonged in there pretty much. You could tell he'd put in a lot of hard work and he was taking it seriously and and at the same time, I know you don't like Miz at all and, for good reason, but I thought him and John Morrison both did a good job of making Bad Bunny look credible, even though he is like this, rapper who's come in, 150 pounds soaking wet or whatever. He's not like built like a wrestler or anything, but they gave him credibility and ended up making a solid tag team match out of it as well. So I thought, it wasn't a 5-star classic or anything like that, but considering the guys involved, it was way better than my expectations, that's for sure.
Okay, I disagree. Okay, well, I'm just gonna tell you what I thought, right? Watching that match, how stupid do the Miz and Morrison look? And the Miz more so than Morrison. Now, I put aside my own personal bias for the Miz for the moment, but he's a pro wrestler, and he has been for 16, 17 years, right? Same with John Morrison. They've been doing this for a long time. Morrison looks ripped as shit, right? Morrison looks great. He's a pro wrestler. The Miz is a pro wrestler. The Miz is a pro wrestler who was the world heavyweight champion about a month ago. And he's in there taking bumps for this tiny guy. Hey, how stupid does he look? He looks like the stupidest, the absolute worst pro wrestler ever, because Bad Bunny did more work than Damian Priest did in that match. Bad Bunny was in that match a lot. He was doing a lot of work, and which is not a good idea for a guy who's not a wrestler. And we've talked about this too, where you can teach a celebrity, or you can teach a stuntman, or you can teach other people a couple of spots. You can teach them a couple of moves. But that's not a match, right? Bad Bunny did some stuff, and some of it, I like the splash off the top. Like, he did some stuff, right? But why were they like taking so much from this one guy? Because like then for the flip side, like they beat up on him for a while, right?
Yeah, I'd say a long while, way more than that he was on offense.
But because he's in the ring more than Damian Priest, the next time you see him in the ring, he's fresh as a daisy, right?
Yeah, but you get that a lot with tag team wrestling anyway, though, don't you?
Well, kind of. I didn't know. I didn't like this one at all. I thought that all this did is made it look like all these other fucking Soldier Boy and Little Boy Y and all these guys who want to be pro wrestlers. This is what they're gonna do next year. He just made it like super clear that they're gonna be able to get away with it. That they can turn up if you do 3 weeks of training, you can be a wrestler too. And I'm like, well, that sucks, right? That shouldn't be the way it is. I mean, if I was famous and I trained for 3 weeks and I got to wrestle at WrestleMania, would you say that's fair? Look at me.
No, I wouldn't say it's fair, but I'd also say I don't blame you for doing that. That's pretty awesome.
But it wouldn't look right. It wouldn't make any sense.
Yeah, the thing is, like, obviously, Bad Bunny's not going to be here for the next however many years, and Miz and Morrison probably are. So
right now they have to go to job. They have to go to work the next week and be reminded that they got clowned by some guy who might not be in the ring for the next year. So next WrestleMania, right? They can't capitalize off this at all. They can't get any kind of revenge or whatever. Plus, again, the video packaging right before that, Miz and Morrison, as much as I hate the Miz, they made some really good points. And yet they were the heels. Here comes this guy who was showing them no respect, which is true. And he thought he could do their job that they've trained all their life to do, which is true. And he's just had the door opened and he's been able to get in there. That's all true. And they're the heels. Like, I don't get this at all. It doesn't make any sense, dude.
Well, agree to disagree.
Okay, well, fuck that match.
Yeah.
The main event was Sasha Banks versus Bianca Belair, which was much better than the tag match previous.
Yes.
I liked that match. I thought it was really good. Those two girls worked their asses off. That fucking hair crack when Bianca Belair, and what was perfect about that, she only did it once. She only had to do it once, and she timed it perfectly. Not out straight off the gate, like right at the end of that fucking match, she whips Sasha Banks with that hair, and it sounded like a fucking gunshot.
Yeah.
It was with that outside like auditorium. It was perfect. Oh my goodness, that was fun. That was a fun match.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like, you could tell before the bell even started as well, like how important it was as well, like in terms of the history of, two black women headlining WrestleMania. That is, this never happened before, and it's a huge milestone. And you kind of had that moment like where Bianca Belair kind of looked like she was about to crack, like where the emotions were about to overwhelm her, and then she, after having that brief moment, she kind of got back into game mode and just absolutely killed it. I thought she, both of them did. They just had such a crisp looking match. Like, everything looked good, made sense, told a good story, with Sasha being like, the cocky champion who's had the experience of WrestleMania and being a champion, and Bianca Belair just being this, freak of an athlete who's just so good, like with the physical side of stuff. Like the whole spot where she kind of gorilla pressed Sasha above her head and then like went up the stairs and threw her back in the ring was awesome. And there's like other spots like similar to that where she's just using her just raw athleticism to come across as a special talent. And I this was probably one of my favorite matches of the weekend. I'd say I really loved this one.
It was a lot of fun. I thought they did a really, really good job. There was a lot of fun spots, like you said, that one where she like carried Sasha Banks, lifted her up over her head, up the steel steps, threw her back into the ring. Beautiful. That was lovely. There was loads of cool spots that like showed off her strength. That wasn't like the whole match. They wrestled a match. It was really good with really good spots in it. I was surprised that Sasha lost. Bianca Belair has been doing a really good job, but I thought they were kind of building up Sasha a little because, previously Sasha Banks has had a bit of a tough run as champion. And I thought maybe this would kind of, like a big win at WrestleMania, would kind of cement her place as one of the greats. Although, to be fair, having a great match at WrestleMania will cement you as one of the greats,
Absolutely.
That was a lot of fun. A good way to end that show at WrestleMania. Yeah, I like that the main event of both nights was headlined by the winners of the Royal Rumble.
Yeah, exactly. It makes it feel more important that you win the Royal Rumble that way.
Exactly. That really does establish it a little bit more. So I really like that. That was a fun main event, but what I consider to be not a great night one of WrestleMania. And maybe I'm in the minority here, but that's just the way I see it. What did you think of night one?
I liked it for the most part, I'd say. Like, I don't think anything aside from the women's tag team turmoil match was that bad, but like, even like the cage match with Strowman and Shane, it wasn't my cup of tea, but at least they made it like a decent story, playing off Shane trying to prove that he was smarter than Braun and all that kind of thing. So it wasn't a perfect night by any stretch of the imagination, but there was enough there to kind of enjoy it for what it was. And it was only, if you get rid of like the 40 minutes at the start where nothing happened, it was only like a good 3-hour show, which that's kind of perfect, really.
Fair enough. Should we go to night two?
Yes.
All right. So I was already a bit bummed out by night one, but hey, man, night two is going to change everything, isn't it? Night two is going to be just jam-packed full of wrestling fun. What was the first match on night two?
Wow. The first match was Randy Orton versus The Fiend.
What did you think about this match?
I'd rather not think about this match. It was, well, there's a lot of issues I have with it, really. Like let's start with the goofiness of, like, they had Bray all burnt up and stuff, and then he just walks through a hallway,
the magical corridor, and he's okay. And that's it. That's the only explanation you get.
Like, they could have done some sort of cool angle where he sort of resurrected on Raw or something to kind of build interest, but nah, he's just going to walk through a hallway and then he's back to normal. And it's like, oh, okay, well, that was a waste. And then you had like the stupid Jack in the Box thing where you got Michael Cole calling it a box-like structure. It's a fucking box, Michael Cole, you idiot. I mean, Jesus wept. And then you get like the return of the red lighting during the match as well. It's like, oh, come on. I thought we'd move past this, because that the audience struggle with it. So why stick it out? And it doesn't add anything to the presentation of the match or make the match better. So just, you don't. But yeah, there's a lot wrong with this.
It was unbelievable. First of all, where did that box come from? Like, did they lift it? They drop it from the ceiling? They got that box there pretty quick.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, interesting, okay. But they had the box there just so Bray Wyatt could come out of it.
Yeah, and I guess so Alexa could go into it during the match to like change her costume and makeup and stuff as well.
Yeah. So at the end of the match, Alexa Bliss sits on top. Alexa Bliss, who has been aligned with the Fiend for so long,
Mm-hmm.
sits on top of this box-like structure, and just ink comes out of her head.
Yeah.
Just loads of ink comes out of her head, and Bray Wyatt's like, "What the hell?" And then Randy Orton drops Bray Wyatt with an RKO and wins.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, "You gotta be shitting me! You gotta be kidding me!"
You gotta be joking me!
We've been sitting through this for so long. We've been sitting through this stupid fucking burned alive bullshit. Reincarnated and comes back later and he's all crispy bacon and this Alexa Bliss stuff and the silly mind games around Randy Orton and this childish fucking bullshit for so long. And we were like, hey, at least it's gonna end at WrestleMania. At least Bray Wyatt. At least the one thing we know for certain about this is that Bray Wyatt is going to get a victory over Randy Orton.
Mm-hmm.
The man who burned him alive. But no, Randy Orton wins. And you're like, oh, how stupid does Bray Wyatt look?
Yep.
Bray Wyatt hasn't beaten this guy at all. What has he done to Randy Orton? Randy Orton by now should just, like, if the Fiend comes after Randy Orton now, he should just be like, dude, I don't want to fight you anymore because I don't have to. What more do I have to do to prove that I'm better than you? I've beaten you twice at WrestleMania. What more? This is ridiculous. I will get nothing out of fighting you. And if you ever get a victory over me, it's gonna mean less than nothing. Ridiculous. Like, how stupid was that?
Yeah.
How fucking stupid. And that's the thing. All of it was stupid. All of it with the burnt guy in the box and the ink. And Alexa Bliss is an alien or something. It's all fucking right ridiculous.
Yeah, like the Alexa Bliss aspect of it makes no sense as well. Like she's been doing the Fiend's like bidding for the last few months and basically being his messenger on Raw to kind of carry the entire feud with Randy Orton. And then after doing all that and like using her spooky powers to make Randy Orton throw up black goo and throwing fireballs in his face and stuff, then she helps Randy Orton beat the Fiend. I mean, come on, what the fuck? I imagine there's gonna be some sort of explanation or something because sounds like on Raw there was some kind of promo from Alexa to kind of tease that she was, she'd embraced the darkness or whatever, and she's basically found like a new puppet of her own or something. But it's like, this. I don't know what the draw is here, like why we should care about any of these characters because it's all just such goofy bullshit that feels so out of place and doesn't make any sense. So,
but that's it. Like by this point, we don't care because why would we care anymore? Randy Orton has just beaten the shit out of Bray Wyatt, despite the interference of some kind of demonic entity. Has still managed to best Bray Wyatt at every single turn. So I mean, Bray Wyatt like lost this match from one of the worst distractions in all of wrestling history.
Mm-hmm.
You idiot! Like, again, if you look at this guy who's a spooky wizard man, and that's what freaks. That's what distracts him. Something that he has probably seen an awful lot of because he's a spooky wizard man, and that's what distracts him. For one RKO.
Yeah, exactly.
I hated this. I hated every inch of this. I hated it. I couldn't believe that finish. I was just fed up. Unbelievable. Because this means there's going to be more of this fucking bullshit. I'm like, stop it. Stop the peeing.
Yeah.
I heard some people think that it's going to be the return of Aleister Black who's going to be involved in this somehow. I'm like, don't ruin Aleister Black as well. You're already starting to ruin Alexa Bliss for me, and I don't appreciate this. And Bray Wyatt, good lord, has been ruined for a long time. Forget this piece of shit. Forget it. Fuck it forever. Awful. I mean, it's such a bad mood. What's the second match?
So the second match was the women's tag team title match between Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler and Natalya and Tamina.
Oh, well, why haven't they learned their lesson about putting Tamina and Nia Jax in the same ring together? I didn't like this one either.
See, I thought this was so much better than I expected it to be. And that's not saying it was good or anything, just that it didn't suck as badly as I thought it was going to be.
Well, that's fair. Yeah.
I thought like they at least had a competent looking match where there wasn't too many, moments where it felt like they were botching everything or getting mixed up on what they were supposed to be doing next or whatever. Like it flowed and it was a bit overlong, but it was they did a good enough job to actually get the crowd chanting for Tamina at one point, which I've never ever seen happen before. So fair play to him.
That's another weird thing because like before the match and like on pre-shows and stuff, they did a really good job of hyping up Natalya and Tamina as a team because Tamina has never achieved any kind of championship in the WWF or WWE, and she's been there forever. So they were kind of touting this. They were like, "Oh, look at the great showing she did last night. Look at her team with Natty. Since she's been team with Natty, they're a much better team. This is amazing." And then she, boy, the big, Superfly splash she hit on night one. She's really making her parents proud. They seem like they were really built. And again, you're like, well, they're putting a lot of effort onto this, so I know where this is going. And then she, on that night too, she goes up for the splash on the top rope, and they hype it up again. They're like, here she go. This is for her parents. She's doing a blah, blah. And then she whips the splash.
Yeah.
She misses it by a mile, and then they lose. And you're like, well, what was the point?
Mm-hmm.
Ugh, fuck.
And this is the thing as well. Like, I like Shayna Baszler a lot, but I don't know why the tag team titles are being kept on her and Nia Jax. It feels like, well, I guess we kind of touched on it earlier as well, but there isn't that many women's tag teams on the main roster now, I guess. But even still, like, this tag team with Nia Jax and Baszler just feels like it's run its course, and
right.
The whole division could use with a bit of refreshing up. So,
right, by this point, it feels like Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax are like transitional champions in that they're kind of only the champions because there's nobody else at the moment to take the titles of them. But they're not doing a very good job of building up other tag teams.
No.
So now we're gonna have to be stuck with fucking Nia Jax on TV for even longer. All right, forget this match too. What was next?
So next was Kevin Owens versus Sami Zayn.
I thought this was okay, but also I hate Logan Paul. So I'm still in a pissy mood because I'm like, why is Logan Paul here? This was fun though. This was a fun match between these two guys.
I mean, they're incapable of having a bad match. I think they could probably sleepwalk through a really good match, and they pretty much did. They felt like there was a lot of sort of spots we've seen before from them, and the kind of the story they told and everything is pretty similar to a lot of their previous matches. But I mean, I'd like the fact that Logan Paul didn't really have any involvement in this as well. Like, they just kind of cut to him reacting to stuff, and that was fine. And then it all led to the moment after the match where he got the stunner, and that gave Kevin Owens a really good pop. So if that was the only reason they brought in Logan Paul was to give Kevin Owens a big pop when he stunned him, job done, I guess.
I suppose. I mean, it would have been nice if Logan Paul wasn't at all involved. That would be nice. But like you said, it's pretty hard for those two guys to have a really shitty match,
Yeah.
I mean, I definitely would have paid more attention if Logan Paul wasn't there. But at the same time, those guys did a good job, as they often do.
I'd say, like, the video package before it was one of my favorite of the weekend as well. Like, just the way it highlighted Sami Zayn's descent into madness, and his conspiracy theories and whatnot. Yeah, I mean, fair play to Sami Zayn. The way he's playing that character is just note perfect. It's so much fun watching him be this paranoid guy who thinks everyone's out to get him.
Yeah, he's been a great job with this. It's like the role he was born to play.
Indeed.
So I'm digging that. That's fine. All right, so finally we're getting something good. What was after that?
Next was the US title match, Riddle against Sheamus.
I thought that was okay.
Yeah, it was a good match.
Yeah.
Very hard hitting.
Nothing outrageous happened.
No, but it was another one that just built well, like as it went along, and he kind of got more into it as it kept going. And Riddle did the jackhammer to kind of taunt Goldberg, I guess. Although
it was a nice jackhammer.
Yeah, but he did fuck it up the first time he tried lifting him up for it. So
Sheamus is a big dude.
Yeah, but it's a bit of egg on Riddle's face for.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. If Goldberg couldn't lift the Undertaker, I'm like, well, Riddle can't lift Sheamus.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
But the way it finished as well was pretty cool with the bro kit.
Yeah, the kick from the Lionsault.
Yeah.
I am always very pleased to see an Irishman holding the United States Championship. I don't know why. There's just something really good about it. Sheamus is one of those guys. I've always liked Sheamus. Obviously, you got to support the home team. Mm-hmm. But I do like him as a big fucking bruiser kind of guy because he can brawl. He makes that shit look good.
I think it's like a good reward for Sheamus as well because he's been killing it on the main roster for the last, 8 months or however long he's been back from injury. So he's had so many good matches. He kind of deserved a good spot on WrestleMania and some sort of reward for it. And the US title is a pretty good reward, I guess.
That he's been having such good matches recently that it's just perfect for him. He deserves something. So yeah, pretty good match. Again, no 5-star classic, but lots of fun to watch. So I dig that. I think the one after that was the Intercontinental Championship match, was it?
Yeah, Nigerian drum fight.
Well, what do you think of this?
I mean, it was a bit too short to be anything, really. They kind of didn't have much time to play with, which feels like kind of a waste when it's like the only, no DQ match on the show. So they pretty much just ended up whacking each other with kendo sticks a lot. And I can't remember, did they actually use any of the drums that were around ringside?
I don't believe so.
No, so that whole thing seemed like a waste of an idea as well. But, I guess the right person won as well, in terms of Apollo Crews had lost so many of his matches against Big E prior to this that he kind of needed to win for his own credibility. And at the same time, I think it frees up Big E now to move on to bigger and better things as well. But the one thing I didn't like was, Dabu or Daba Kato, whatever his name is, the big guy comes out and helps Apollo Crews beat Big E. But the commentators are acting like they've never seen him before, even though, he was all over Raw Underground, not that long ago, back when that was still a thing. So that just felt okay, you're insulting our intelligence a bit there, but
they insulted our intelligence with the Bray Wyatt thing.
Yeah.
For a moment, I was like, is that fucking the guy from Retribution?
Yeah, that's what I thought at first as well.
It wasn't. Not that guy. What a shame. But yeah, that match, I mean, it was okay. I am okay with Apollo Crews being Intercontinental Champion. I think that's cool. I had actually been thinking before WrestleMania, I was thinking, what if, he dropped the belt? Much like I thought, 2 months ago, whatever the February one was, Elimination Chamber or whatever, that Lashley dropping the US belt maybe meant he was on for bigger and better things. Lo and behold, he became the champion not so long after that. So I'm like, well, wouldn't this have been the perfect time once I saw that he had lost and Drew had lost, I'm like, all right, cool. Now I know what's gonna happen. We're gonna get Big E versus Bobby Lashley. I'd be down for that. Even if that was just the main event of Backlash, right? Mm-hmm. As a stopgap to get to Drew McIntyre further down the road. That'll be a fun match. I dig it. And, it doesn't seem like that's the way they're going to go.
No, but I think Big E might well be the guy to win the Universal title from Roman Reigns down the road.
That's interesting. How many matches have we got left? 2?
Let's see. Yeah, there's the Raw Women's title match and then the main event, I think.
Okay. What did you think about the women's title match?
I liked it, but I wasn't blown away by it, I don't think. Especially compared to the women's title match from the night before, which, like I say, was one of my favorite matches of the whole weekend. This one just, I don't know, it didn't really feel like it kind of kicked into high gear at any point. But it was still like a good, solid match and everything. They both looked pretty good, so it's not like it's bad or anything like that.
I liked it, and obviously I would because I love Asuka. I agree in that I didn't think it was like this is one of the matches I thought this is going to be match of the night, and it was really good. It was a solid match. It did what it was supposed to do, and it was a lot of fun to watch. But I wouldn't say it was like 5-star. Like, you gotta see this match, which was a shame, but it was still really good. I really liked it. I thought Ripley put on a good show. Both women put on a really good show, really. And I'm psyched for Rhea Ripley because I feel like we're going to get Rhea Ripley versus Becky Lynch. And I'm very excited about that. I think that's going to be very, very good.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I am surprised that Becky didn't make an appearance at this WrestleMania as well.
Yeah, really surprised because that would have set things up. But again, they're gonna hit us with that when we least expect it. I think that's gonna be a good storyline whenever they pull the trigger on that one.
Indeed.
So we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, I like that match. Lots of fun. And then we had the main event.
Yes.
What did you think of this? This is Roman Reigns versus Edge versus Daniel Bryan.
Well, I was really blown away by the fact that Edge was the overwhelming fan favorite. Like, I thought with the way that the build has gone, like Daniel Bryan has been positioned in that face role more than Edge, especially after the last pay-per-view where Edge sort of snapped and got involved in the finish of that match with Roman Reigns, and he's definitely played it sort of more down the middle since then as well, like as the kind of tweener who's technically like going for the title and trying to reclaim what was once his, but he's also kind of played it like he's willing to do whatever it takes as well and is not afraid to bend the rules or do something unpopular to get the job done. So but Edge, man, that pop when he came out was huge, much deserved as well. Like, I thought he played his role really well in this match. Well, all three of them did, to be fair. Like, it was a nice, fast-paced match as well. It had some of the, the familiar tropes you get with triple threat matches where it's two guys going at once and one guy's like, selling on the outside or whatever. But, a lot of the spots were really good as well. I loved the whole Roman Reigns like power bombing Daniel Bryan through the announce table and then turning around as he's like stood on those steps and Edge just comes out of nowhere and spears him. That looked awesome. But yeah, it was a good, really good match. Probably my top match of the weekend, I'd say.
I thought that was a fun main event. I thought that was a really good way to close WrestleMania. Yeah, some of those spots are really cool. I dig it. I really did. I thought this is, it was really cool to see Edge out there like kicking ass. And he did a really good job. All three of those guys know how to work. They're pros, right? And that's just it. Like, when you get three guys who know what the fuck they're doing in the ring, you're gonna have a good match, right? It was a bit silly at points. There was a lot of, Uso.
yeah.
But and a lot of weapons and stuff. But like, it was still fun to watch. I enjoyed it. I thought the spot at the end where Roman throws Edge onto Danny Bryan and pins them both. I'm like, doesn't Edge win?
I think, yeah,
because Edge would be pinning Danny Bryan.
I've seen it played up on Twitter, like someone tweeting Adam Pearce about that, and he's saying, "Oh, that's an interesting point you bring up." And then Charles Robinson, who was the referee for the match, like tweeted a reply saying, "Well, both Daniel Bryan and Edge's shoulders were down, and Roman Reigns was pinning them both from like the dominant position, so that's why I awarded the match to him." And then Adam Pearce replied to that saying, "Well, you need to come to my office on Friday for SmackDown." So
hello.
Maybe they'll play that up, but I thought it just looked like a good way of making Roman Reigns look like the dominant heel that he is. So yeah, I loved that bit. I mean, so the thing I was kind of surprised they did were like a lot of the like concertos and like Daniel Bryan as well, headbutting Edge and stuff like that. That made me cringe a little bit because obviously with Bryan's past with concussions and whatnot, you don't want him to do something that's going to potentially, bring that issue back. So that was tough to watch in a few places, but yeah.
I agree. Sometimes it's really scary when you see, like when Danny Bryan came back and he was doing like headbutts and stuff. You're like, I don't like this. You gotta be careful, dude. But that's what was cool about that match. You see Danny Bryan and Edge both getting their asses kicked, but they're obviously working with professionals. They know what they're doing, and they're working in a way that makes it look really impactful, but it's pretty safe, right?
Yeah.
So that's like a measure of trust Edge would put into these other two guys to be able to like do all that stuff and make it look good, because it did look good. You're right in that I think everybody played their part really well in that. Roman Reigns came off looking like a dominant heel. Danny Bryan came off looking like a plucky underdog, and Edge came along looking like, this veteran who just was willing to do whatever it took to get that title back. They all did a really good job with that. That was some good stuff.
I think my only concern now is they're sort of overplaying the Jey Uso card a bit too much in Roman Reigns matches, where pretty much every title defense he's made since he's won the belt he's had Jey Uso come in and get involved, and it's at that point now where it's starting to become a little tired that they keep doing that. So but I don't know how you can change that really with the way it's all set up. Like Roman being the head of the table and Jey sort of his obedient follower. Unless someone, properly takes out Jey, then it's just going to keep happening, I guess.
Well, I can see it getting to some point where they do use that in the storyline. Like somebody's like, "Oh, you have to rely on your fucking cousin all the time for help. You can't beat anybody straight up." That's gonna be right around the corner, surely.
Yeah.
Other than that, though, pretty good stuff.
Yes, definitely.
So, what did you think about WrestleMania overall?
Well, my expectations were so low going into it that they ended up far exceeding them. So, I mean, there's not a lot of stuff that I'd say was amazing, must see, wrestling or anything like that, or stuff that's going to be remembered for years to come. But in terms of just like a good, solid 2-night affair, I think it was, it did what it was supposed to do. There was more good than bad for the most part. And yeah, I ended up enjoying it a lot more thanks to it being 2 nights as well, rather than like 6 or 7 hour show where they try and squeeze all of this into one night.
Oh yeah, it's not so much fun where it's like 5 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah,
they still haven't got to the main event. That's not fun for us. I also didn't have super high expectations for this show because of some of the matches they announced and because of some of the booking going ahead. And I thought that this pay-per-view was pretty much what I thought it would be. There were some good matches. And in my opinion, there were a lot of crud matches. You could have cut this down to one night easy. Like I was saying to you earlier, I feel like WrestleMania, is like a double album by a band. I specifically use Stadium Arcadium as a reference point because Stadium Arcadium is a terrible, terrible double album that the Red Hot Chili Peppers themselves said that they loved all of the songs on it so much that they couldn't possibly distill it down into one album. So now you get twice the goodness, and what you get instead is just a piece of shit with about 3 or 4 good songs on it. I mean, it's a really not a good album. I tried to listen to it again. Like, was I incorrect? No, I'm correct. It's not good. But there's like a handful of really good songs on there. And I felt like that's what WrestleMania was. There was a handful of really good matches on here, but if they just trimmed it down into one night, it would have flowed a lot better. You could have cut a lot of the fat, trimmed a lot of the shit off of here. But then again, because it's WWE, if it was one night, it would just be full of the bullshit.
Yeah,
they wouldn't get rid of the bullshit. They just add more. You know? Also, I want to say, outraged that company could devote such time and effort to fucking The Miz and Bad Bunny and Randy Orton versus Bray Wyatt and all that fucking women's tag team match, all the other shit that we've seen, Braun Strowman versus Shane McMahon, and they couldn't find anything for Bayley other than a bunch of shitty segments with Hulk Hogan. Fuck away off. And to be fair, she was great.
Yeah.
Bayley, but god damn it, son of a bitch, Bayley's been so good the last year, and this is what they give her to do at WrestleMania. Come on, man.
Yeah, it was a bit disappointing, wasn't it? And well, especially with the payoff as well, like with the Bellas coming out.
Fucking like, who gives a shit about the Bella Twins coming out to beat up Bayley? I don't want to see Bella Twins versus Bayley.
Yeah.
You know, that's not going to end well for Bayley. This isn't the way to do it, you know?
And the only enjoyment I got out of that was the fact that most of the crowd seemed to be booing Hulk Hogan. So
I loved the second night you could hear it where they were just booing every time Hulk Hogan would talk, which then turned into cheering every time Titus O'Neil talked.
Yeah.
So I'm like, that's how you get a guy over. There you go. Everybody loves Titus now, just because everybody hates Hulk Hogan. Overall, okay. Let me ask you this, John. Do you think this year's WrestleMania made sense?
That's a good question. I think certain parts of it did, but at the same time, there's a lot coming out of here. Like especially with the Fiend and Randy Orton, like first and foremost. But there's a lot of stuff where I'm kind of scratching my head and thinking, well, what's the idea here? And like as well, the fact that so many heels won the matches, like, and came out as champions. You'd think that being it's WrestleMania and being it's like the first show in a year in front of thousands of fans, they would have tried to make it more of a like uplifting show with more baby faces winning to kind of pop the crowd and get them excited and stuff. But yeah, it's kind of odd that they went the opposite route, I guess.
On the last night, because that was the last night of WrestleMania, and the heel one, like you could have put Sasha and Bianca Belair on the second night, and then that way at least like the face winning.
Yeah,
I assume Bianca Belair is the face in that, right?
Yeah.
Like that's a good. Then everybody leaves happy, as they say. But then again, I don't think anybody was really too bummed about Roman Reigns winning because he's been on a tear. He's been doing a good job, you know.
Yeah.
So I get that, but in my opinion, no, this WrestleMania did not make sense. Like you said, there were some really good. The main events of both nights were great, and I would also check out Cesaro versus Rollins and Asuka versus Rhea Ripley, and maybe Riddle versus Sheamus if you're feeling frisky. But other than that, like there was so much stuff on there that didn't make any sense and also wasn't good, in my opinion. So no, I would say this WrestleMania did not make sense. So you fucked up there, WWE. Is that it? Should we wrap things up here?
Yeah, I think so.
It's been a long one, but we had a lot of stuff to talk about. WrestleMania was a week long, and we were able to fit it into an hour and a half. That's how good we are. Take note, WWE. We'll write your show for you.
Yeah.
We'll make it good. And nobody will burn alive. Can you believe they were fucking burning people and they didn't burn Logan Paul? He was right there.
Yeah, I missed an opportunity.
Fuck that up. God dang it. When are they ever going to have that opportunity again? Son of a bitch. Anyway, maybe tomorrow. Maybe next week on fucking SmackDown or whatever. Anywho, we're going to be back next week with something else. Something that does nothing to do with WrestleMania or The Fiend, I assume, because that's just going to make me feel happy. But make sure to subscribe. Hit the subscribe button so you can stay up to date and check out all our new videos. We will be back next week with another video. It'll be amazing. You want to check that out. Oh, follow us on Twitter as well. Whatever the Twitter thing is, it's in the description. We're really good at this.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. Anyway, thank you very much for listening, guys. Really appreciate it. And we will see you in the next episode. So, goodbye.
Bye-bye.